Good day, gents and ladies of the Churrasco Voltorb Nation. I have a video for you guys. Really cool video. I'm kind of bored of making reviews and things, so I figured I tried something new and do a little video on my love for the Japanese RPG specifically, not the Western type. So no Fallout 3s and things like that will be talked about here. Another like stat-driven third-party shooty shoots. I'll be talking about Japanese RPG turn-based stuff, some tactical RPGs, and other things in between. Nothing too crazy. I'm not going to diverge and talk about like as much as I want to talk about Valkyria Chronicles and its weird real-time shooting at things, point-based battle system thing. I won't be talking about games like that, but I will talk about the RPG and how it influenced my love for gaming. It made me the gamer I am, and really like introduced me to the RPG and made it one of my favorite genres. I would call myself strictly an RPG gamer at first because that was my jam. So let's start this journey. Please take this journey with me into memory lane, down memory lane, and hang out. Let's check it out. Let's see what we got. Starting with the granddaddies of all RPGs, obviously, the original Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy. These games were so relevant and iconic, and I'm just talking crap because I don't have any memories of these games, really. I bought them way after they were a thing, and whatever. I didn't grow up with these games. Let's start with it all actually started, which I've really deconstructed this. Don't worry, it normally has a protective box. I'm just taking it out for display purposes. Is Final Fantasy III, or as many of you may know already, Final Fantasy VI in Japan came out as 3 here in the States. So, this game here, I remember as a wee lad going to Burdines, which was a brick and mortar store, it's this crazy place where people used to walk into places and talk to other human beings to buy things. It wasn't online or anything. Online wasn't a thing. You would just go and buy stuff that you liked that you saw on a shelf, and if it wasn't there, you'd have to drive to the... Whatever. I digress. So, this was like, I don't know what year it was. I was a young man, younger than 10 years old. Me and my father, or whoever went with me to Burdines, I remember asking the cashier or the person, the clerk who worked at the store, saying, because they had an electronics store, Burdines did at that time, an electronics section, and we said, what's the latest and greatest Super Nintendo game for this young lad here? And the clerk was like, Final Fantasy 3 is sweet. So, we said, yeah, we'll check it out. So, we took it home. I was very excited, super pumped, as I was often for games like that. You know, as a kid, games are fewer and farther in between than now as an adult, where I buy like 20 like a week. It's ridiculous. Honestly, it's kind of sickening. And I took it home and I started playing it, and it was just so different from what I was used to at the time, like the Marios and the Mega Mans from the NES days. But I still really enjoyed it. It was fun. But then, I was a younger kid, and there was a lot of reading. And I wanted to just play a game, man. I just wanted to play the game, bro. But it was still fun. And then I got to the first boss, a giant snail monster called the Whelk. And, there'd be very, very light spoilers for games here. That's pretty much as spoily as it will get. And basically, if you attack the Whelk when it retreated into its shell, it would counterattack with this crazy high voltage attack that would almost eradicate your whole party in one go. I didn't know that at the time, though, so I kept attacking the Whelk even when it went into its shell, and I kept getting killed over and over and over and over until I said, "Screw you, game! I can't handle it." So I abandoned this game, and I let it be, and I just chalked it up to failure. I do not apparently like this game, so I don't like you, Final Fantasy III, is what I thought, and I will not even touch you for at least 2 years. And then something very important happened in 1996. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, which is also the fantastic beats you're hearing in the background, this game was released upon the SNES. As you know, the Super Mario RPG series has been long running with various games, and I don't have those games, I just have this one. But from what I know, this is regarded as one of the best ones in the series by even big-time fans of the series. Anyways, this game released, and I remember as a kid, I liked Mario enough. I thought he was a cool dude. Super Mario World was super fun, and I had very fond memories playing Super Mario 3 and the original Mario on the NES when I was a kid. So I told my dad, Daddy, I really want this. My brother and I were very lucky. Our parents always got us what we wanted, pretty much, within reason, obviously. To this day, they still spoil us, grown man children. And thank you, Mom and Dad, we love you. So, one of my memories was I told the dad, hey, can we go get this? And he said, sure. So, we went to Toys R Us, another one of those fabled brick and mortar stores I told you guys about. And asked the guy at the counter, hey, got this? Got this game? Well, I already knew he didn't because back in the day, the shelves had these little pieces of paper that you would take a paper. The picture of the game would be hanging, and underneath would be paper slips that you take out. If the paper slips ran out, that means there were no more in stock. There was a corresponding game for each paper slip in their respective envelope under the respective art. So there were none. So I remember the guy that worked at the counter called another Toys R Us. Yeah, there were multiple brick and mortar stores back then. It's crazy. And asked, do you have a copy of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars? And they said, sure, we sure do. Come over here and we'll get it for you. There's only one left. As a kid, I remember being like, wow, this is kind of crazy. I've never heard of a game not being available and having to go somewhere else to get it. Usually games I wanted were always in stock, or I just saw something I liked and grabbed one that was in stock, and that was it. This is one of the first times I remember wanting a game that I had heard about before or seen commercial before. The advertisement actually hooked me and I wanted to check it out. Long story short, we go to that Toys R Us, buy it, take it back home, and I start playing, and I'm having a blast. I'm having so much fun. It's there's more in this to keep a younger gamer entertained than Final Fantasy VI. It's a little bit more involved. You can still jump, you can still platform, hidden chests, bounce on enemies. Enemies are on screen. There's no randomized battles. The battles are more involved with the time button inputs to add hits to your combo. Really, really fun. Great graphics, great music, smooth gameplay. I was having fun. And the story was more lighthearted and easy to follow for a younger kid, as I was back then. And then something tragic happened. The first boss, I believe his name is Mac. And Mac was a pumpkin monster on a giant sword that acted as a pogo stick. That guy was a son of a bitch because he almost single-handedly destroyed my love for RPGs. As a kid, patience is a virtue, and one we often do not possess as children. And basically, I couldn't beat the guy. It was taking forever. I was fighting him, giving him my best attacks as Mallow and Mario, and he was not going down. So, obviously, the game was broken, and I don't like it. I don't like you either, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. You suck. So I told my dad, hey, this game sucks, and my dad humored me, and we went back to Toys R Us to try to return it. And my memory gets a little hazy here. Either they said we could give you Toys R Us bucks that you can use in store only, which I think that actually, no, scratch that. That happened for another game that I was scared of Doom 3 and returned it. They gave me Toys R Us bucks to spend towards something else. But for this game, since it was like brand new and a hot item, I don't know if they could take it back. I don't know what the story was. They said you cannot get a refund. Sorry, you're stuck with it. We cannot just refund your game because you don't like it. So I was like, eh. So I went back home and I said, fine. I guess I'll keep trying. So I eventually, got to Mac again and fought him what felt like an eternity as a kid. It probably only was like less than 5 minutes, honestly. And he died. Eventually, he exploded into a shower of coins, or was it coins? And then I got my star piece, and I really loved it. From then on, that history was made. The RPG was saved for me. I went on to love the game and recall it fondly to this day. It's just such a great, fantastic game. I have so many fond memories of it. And because of this, it opened up the gateway to the RPG itself. I went back to Final Fantasy III, and I said, let me try my hand at fighting the Welk again. But this time, after failing numerous times, I consulted the manual that was inside of this, and basically, it's a little ratty. It's been around. Cut me a break. I was a kid. Did my best. there was a mini strategy here, if memory serves me correctly. Here we go. The story begins. It's a mini strategy. And right here is the screenshot that made it all for me. Aim a tech missile on the enemy's head. Do not or don't attack the shell. I did that strategy. And the Welk was vanquished. Holy crap. Can you believe that? Now, I like the strategy guide, little mini guide so much but it eventually ran out. And it had a little advertisement on the back here. It said, Final Fantasy III accessories, the Nintendo Player's Guide. You just had to call a phone number. This phone number. You had to call an actual phone number and order it. So we did that. And I was worried because this was already 2 years after I believe the game had released, or however many years after the game had released. I don't remember the exact year I got FF3. But it was years. And I was like, there's no way they still have this stuff in stock. No way. So we ordered it. And in December of 96, boom! Don't worry, this will go back in its protective case. The manual will be back inside. The cartridge is in there. It's all safe. Don't worry. I protect this stuff. This showed up. My mom used to protect all my stuff. She would put this cellophane type covering on all this. It was pretty cool. But because of this here, I continued. It was my little guidebook into basically completing the game. And really helped me out as a kid. And yeah, this is just one of those little pieces of gaming history for me. Still have it to this day, obviously. It led me to also like guidebooks. So, boom! Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, official Nintendo Player's Guide. I remember as a kid, when I got a PlayStation 1, my brother took the SNES into his room. He would play the Super Mario RPG, and he used this guidebook, this one here, to kind of, look through and help him play the game. So yeah, really cool. So that was just kind of what started my love for RPGs. Now let's continue the journey down memory lane. As an adult, there were many RPGs, obviously, in the SNES that I really liked, and I used to really love buying guidebooks to RPGs I didn't even own, and one of them was Breath of Fire. As a kid, I bought the manual, or the guide, a big, thick manual for Breath of Fire, and as an adult, many years later, I ordered the cart online, and I played it, and it was some games you just can't go back to. They're just too archaic. I think the original Breath of Fire is a good game, but I couldn't get into it. It was so basic, and the story was so lame, and the battle system was so blah that I just didn't like it. Now, is that to say that all RPGs that are older you can't really go back to? Nay, I say, because boom! I had heard a billion great things about this game, and I never had it as a kid. Then one year, my wife surprised me on my birthday, I believe, many years ago, and she ordered this for me. It also came with the player's guide. The guy didn't mention that it would come with the player's guide, but it did. So basically, I got this game and I played it, and what an amazing experience. What a fantastic game for something to almost dethrone Final Fantasy VI, and how important it was for me. It was something else. It really was impressive that I could have missed out on something like this. But it was special to me because it was one of the games as soon as I finished it, I remember getting the phone call from my wife of saying, hey, we were about to have our first kid, and our first son, and she was going to labor. And that was, to me, it's like, hey, you finished the game. Now go be a man. Stop being a little boy and go be a dad. So that's a really cool memory for me, and it's a really, really cool game. I can't recommend this enough if you haven't played it for some reason. There are multiple ways to play it, but I'm a purist. And the cartridge, this is phenomenal. This is such a beautiful game, and it's short. It's a little bite-sized in comparison to FF3. I remember Final Fantasy 6 being like, oh my god, this takes 80 or 100 hours in the play clock. But yeah, this is great. So the history continues. Let's move along now. Around that same time, the Pokemon craze was a thing. Kind of an RPG, kind of sort of, you know what I mean. Collecting monsters was cool. It's a little footnote. We got this. My brother and I got this for Christmas. And I remember the next morning, our parents found us like sitting up in bed, or at least found me sitting up in bed playing this on my matching blue Game Boy Pocket. I got all the Pokemon. It was fun, little like kids RPG. Doesn't really kind of fit the mold of the rest of the games that everyone kind of look at, but it was nonetheless. This was a great piece of history for me and kept the love of RPGs up during those years. And then big things happened. Big stuff came out. I mean, do I need to say anything to introduce this game and how amazing it was and still is? The remake is amazing too, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, have it on the PS4. It's great. This game was also like mind-blowing as a kid. I used to go to friends' houses that had demo discs, and for some reason there was a demo of this, I remember. And all the kids wanted to play Bandicoot and stuff like that, or whatever the hell was out at that time. And I was like, no, I want to play this demo. And I played the demo and I hogged the TV, and yeah, I remember that. My original copy was stolen years ago, and my brother got me this copy. Thank you. And yeah, I just love this game, and I remember being introduced to this game and a lot of other games in the PS1 era by a buddy of mine that I had in elementary school. We'd go over to each other's houses and play games. We were a couple little nerds, and he introduced me to this Final Fantasy series after the SNES, after I already had played Final Fantasy 3 or 6, and he had never played 6 himself, I remember. So we went to my house, we would play the SNES, and we would play 6, and I went to his house, I would play the stuff on the PlayStation, because I didn't have a PlayStation yet at the time. I would play 7, and I'm going to stop talking about 7, because you guys have probably heard so much about 7 in so many other videos, you probably want to throw up all over the place. So, the other game that he introduced me to was this guy. Final Fantasy Tactics is arguably my favorite game of all time. Now, this is where we're trying to get away from the turn-based RPG and trying to go into a strategy RPG, but hey, that's okay. I regard them both as old school and really fun. I remember that this is the game that I went to my buddy's house, that same friend of mine, and we played through all of chapter 1 in one sitting. Took 2-3 hours. We played through all of it, and I loved it. And I was like, just watching, because I wasn't really playing. I was watching him play, and it was amazing. He wasn't a dick or anything. He knew how to do it, and I was learning. So I told my dad, I need this. I need a PlayStation, and I need Final Fantasy Tactics. So I remember telling my Dad, you don't have to worry about buying me games anymore, because if you get me this, what a manipulative child, right? If you get me this, I'll never want another game for another 10 years. I remember us saying that. And it's almost held true, because every year until recently, since getting this in the late 90s, I replay this game at least once a year. I have to do that again. It's been a while. And damn, does this hold up? It's an amazing Final Fantasy spin-off. And even Tactics Ogre Reborn that recently came out on the PS5, it doesn't hold a candle to this in my opinion. So if you don't have this, get it. Before the internet was a thing, this was my guidebook to it. And I would address this when I needed information about changing classes or maps or battles. And as a kid, the glue came loose here, and all the pages started filling out. So I jammed them back in there, and I scotch taped them in, and they were hanging out. So I used scissors to mangle this book and try to make it match. But hey, this is my copy. I love it. But the PS1 era was huge. Obviously, we're gonna speed it up a little bit now, because everything else does not hold as much nostalgia, but it still does, obviously. I went on to love the Final Fantasy series. 8 was great. I love it a lot. Almost as much as 7, don't shoot me. 9 is on my most disappointing games of all time, arguably. I was disappointed. So I'm going to put you down. You can flop right there. But this was great. I remember pre-ordering this game at KB Toys. And the day before the release, the clerk calls the phone number at the house. I had put it under my name as a kid, so he said, speak to so-and-so and to Churrasco. And I was like, yeah, go ahead, it's Churrasco speaking. And he said, hey, man, listen, your game's coming in tomorrow, but you got to make sure you pick it up, because we got to keep things moving, I was like, all right, Hitman from KB Toys. So, but yeah, this phenomenal game. Graphics have aged a little funny, like all these PS1 games, but this is a great moody emo. I cut myself to feel type Squall main hero here. That it's just a great game. 9, I guess, has an audience. It went back to kind of like the roots of PS1 ish or Final Fantasy, but it didn't hold my attention. I never beat this. And that's kind of it for PS1 RPGs. Oh, no, it's not. The strategy RPG bug continued for me, and I got into Brigandine. Brigandine's a phenomenal game, strategy RPG, one of the most involved, deepest RPGs, with a great soundtrack, great sprite work, super addictive gameplay. The critics hated it, but I loved it. And now it's super expensive and hard to come by. And then I went to other RPGs. I dove back as an adult, like Legend of Dragoon and Chrono Cross. I could never really get into this, but I did get into Front Mission 3 and the original Valkyrie Profile. As an adult, I visited those games to try them for the first time, and I loved them. Yeah, especially, I think, Front Mission 3. I spent about 200 hours in this game. There's multiple storylines and things. These are great games. Valkyrie Profile is phenomenal also. It's a masterpiece. You should definitely check these games out. My love for RPGs continued into kind of basically went on. I didn't pull one of the games down I wanted to talk about, so we'll talk about the sequel. Final Fantasy X-2 for the PS2. 10 is one of my favorites. I think I left it back on the shelf because, yeah, that wasn't very smart of me. But yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it. It's over there, and I can't reach it. So just pretend I have it here. It was one of the first times that I'd seen like real voice acting in a game besides like Metal Gear that I could remember. The voice acting was impactful. Graphics were great. I loved the story. It really moved me. Not in this game, the original. This was kind of silly, but I still enjoyed it. But then I went on to, like, this is where Final Fantasy kind of died for me. Final Fantasy 12 kind of killed the RPG for me. I did not like the battle system. I liked the graphics and the story enough, but it's just... I know it's remade for the PS4. I might try that to just get back into it. And then I never tried 13. I never tried, like, Lightning Returns or any of the 13 spin-offs. Also, around this time I was introduced to like the real-time combat RPG by Kingdom Hearts, brought to me by that. I loved this game. I could care less about the Disney aesthetic. I thought it was cool. What's it called? Nightmare Before Christmas, one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. My kids would agree. And this game was phenomenal. I loved it, and I played it, and it like I said, opened the door to another facet of the RPG, which is being the live-action or real-time combat, not turn-based RPG. Check all these games out. As an adult, I returned to the PS2, obviously. Oh, and before I forget, there's a little niche, a little recommendation, totally off topic. Get Gladius for the PS2 or GameCube. Maybe it's on Xbox. This is a tactical RPG where you're on a grid, and it's a Colosseum-type battle. You hire gladiators to fight for you. It's a very unique battle system. It's impossible to explain. Decent story, decent graphics, but the gameplay is top-notch. Grade A, LucasArts stuff. Check this out. Another very important game in my formative years as an RPG gamer. As an adult, I came back to the PS2 and the PS2 RPGs, and I picked up some gems. You've heard me gush about Front Mission enough, and Front Mission 4 continues the trend, but on the PS2, amazing game. This was my first Front Mission game. I didn't know I was going to like it, so I bought a really beat-up copy on eBay for like $5, and I loved the game. I poured hundreds of hours into this game. Super deep and customizable stuff. And then I bought some other RPGs. I went back to very different types. Tactical RPGs in Stella Deuce, and the fantastic Rogue Galaxy real active time combat system found in here. This game is good if you like tactical RPGs. It's a good time, and it has a reversible cover, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to show you that right now, but it's a little too easy. Grinding takes the challenge out of this completely. It makes the whole game a cakewalk. But it's a really nice looking game, and it's entertaining and weird. But this game, if you guys have not checked it out, do not sleep on it. I've recommended it a billion times. Nothing more to say. Get this game, play this game, love this game. Monkey, you hold these games. And now let's wind it down to kind of where I am with the RPG now. Tales of Berseria on the PS4 was a phenomenal game. I got this in a buy two, get one free deal at GameStop on used games. real-time combat. I am not into weeby stuff, but this game is weeby, and I really like it, and it was a lot of fun. The combat system is amazing. The music is great. The characters are really cool, in my opinion. They have a little edge to them. They're not all like, I want to save the world. No, they're brooding. They're dark. It makes it cool. I really enjoy this. I tried another Tales of game, the Tales of Horizon. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was boring. This game, though, is phenomenal. And that's kind of the last real-time active combat RPG. I say real-time. I guess active combat system RPG that I really, truly enjoyed and beat. It took me a long time to beat, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every second of it. And finally, the last real RPG experience I can really talk about is Astria Ascending on the PS5. This is more of the traditional turn-based stuff, except there is no battle gauge. You won't know when your turn is. When I was 20, 30 hours in, I was really liking it, but then it overstayed its welcome, and it took me about 100 hours to beat this, and it was very backtracky. There were some Metroidvania elements that weren't executed properly, but I enjoyed it ultimately. Obviously, I wouldn't be sane if I spent over 100 hours on something I didn't enjoy. But that's kind of it. That's kind of where things left off. Beautiful hand-drawn graphics, really cool. But it all started truly, I can thank two games really. Final Fantasy III on the SNES, and of course, what I can arguably say is the Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars on the SNES. These games really shaped me and made me love RPGs. And when the PS1 came along and I moved the SNES into my brother's room, I know that was big for him too, and kind of getting him more into games. That was his first console he had in his room. So yeah, RPGs were just big for me. But anyways, not to ramble anymore, guys. I'm really glad you guys stuck around with me and kind of listened to me babble. Hope you enjoyed it. I plan on doing more type of videos like this. Let me know what you want to see. History of me and the Mega Man series, history of me and shoot 'em up games, beat 'em up games, fighting games, whatever you guys want to see. Just kind of let me know in the comments below. Tell me what you think of this type of video. If you enjoy it, if you don't, if you hate it, tell me, hey, Churrasco, this sucks, whatever, tell me. But I'm always open to feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to me and tuning in and watching this episode. I hope to see you guys in the next one. This is Churrasco Voltorb, signing out.